Hi everyone, I'm Jagravi Singh, and this is Race to 2030. Today's episode is about Goal 4, which is quality education. Due to the pandemic, many schools have had to close, which reverses years of progress. This has reduced many children's productivity and social skills as they're told to stay at home or self-isolate. As a student myself, I know this past year has been one of the most difficult years we have had to get through. School closures have had a significant impact in developing countries as they lack the resources to open up safely, and some students don't have the resources to do online or remote learning. Therefore, I thought of discussing this matter further with one of my social studies teachers, Mr. Aaron Rangoonwala. He's an incredible teacher who gave me the right tips to succeed in his intro to Anthropology, Psychology, and Sociology class. I enjoyed learning that subject with him, and I certainly learned loads. He has a passion for making students learn more about the world and provide the necessary sources for them to succeed. Currently, close to 90% of all students are affected by COVID-19. This is reversing years of progress towards education. How do you think schools should still remain open in the time of this virus spreading globally?
Okay, I think that's a really good question. I think that it really depends on the situation. I don't think that there is one global answer. I do think that it is important that education continues. Education is not limited to a school. I don't think the school has a monopoly on education or learning, and that's a good thing, because then even here in COVID, countries, communities, cities, whatnot, neighborhoods, they should be able to be empowered and kind of decide how learning should happen. I think that schools should follow health guidelines first and foremost, because the safety of your students is really important. I think that schools, to prioritize education at the expense of students' health is counterproductive towards their goals. Because if you have people dying, there's no point in educating them, right? So the first thing you can do as schools is first model that leadership of weighing the situation, using discernment, and then seeing how you can continue education.
According to the UN's Department of Economic and Social Affairs, only 65% of primary schools worldwide have access to basic hand washing facilities, which are critical for the prevention of this new virus. Since many primary school children might not understand the virus as much as the scientists or some of the frontline workers, how do you think they should protect themselves when they're lacking this basic infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that going back to the first answer I had about communities having the power and being empowered to make discerning decisions, I think that's first and foremost. So if what if some of these primary schools, if they are in areas where there is the effect of COVID is very small, or the risk is very low, then this is not necessarily a big question. It is a bigger health question, because there's other diseases that are not COVID that hand washing is very important for, right? So this is not just a COVID question, but it's a basic hygiene question. There's a lot of data there that has shown that hand washing has reduced flu over time. Hand washing has reduced other diseases that are carried through, like airborne diseases, So it's just a general hygiene question that needs to be addressed. I also would ask and want to be doing research on whether those communities have other things available, like masks, right? Like hand washing has been proven to be effective at slowing down the virus spread, but it is not the only option for slowing down the virus spread. So I think you'd have to look at those schools, and like maybe schools don't have hand washing facilities, but they have access to masks and they require masks, you know? And then in that case, that school doesn't have as big of a problem, right? So those kind of things you'd have to dig into. I honestly think it's case by case. Right, so that's how they protect themselves. In some cases, I think the parents are still going to send them to school, and they just have less protection, and that's because they, like in this question, it says they lack infrastructure, and that I think is something that politicians, governments need to work towards.
Yes. Remote or online learning still remains out of reach for at least 500 million students. This is leading to millions more who are out of school. Why do you think something as basic as the internet is not yet available for these kids?
Yeah, I think a big reason is simply economics. The whole world is not going to develop at the same rate, and you can't create infrastructure equally across the world at the same time. So usually, you know, countries who have the most money will spend money for research and development of new technologies, and then they will be able to implement those technologies in their country and communities the quickest. Once those technologies grow to a scale where they can be become cheaper, then countries with less money they can start adapting those technologies as well. So I think a lot of times that's the case. Whereas communities that have less economic activity, or they live in a place with less natural resources, there's a lot of factors that can go into whether a community has disposable income or extra income to invest in those infrastructure. You know, they have limited resources, limited money. So I think that's economics, right?
Yeah.
I'm an economics teacher, so that's one of the big reasons why. It's not that they can't, you know, the ability to do that is there, but having the ability to set up internet, connect phone lines, all that kind of stuff, everyone has to make decisions and trade-offs, and authorities, governments have to do that as well. And so, like, you go back to, well, should they spend that money on putting in sinks in schools, right? Which is a priority, sinks or internet? I would think sinks, right? Yeah. So if you have to make one change and you have limited money, which one are you going to do? So I think that's the case. So really, I think those communities, it's not that they don't want it, it's that they're not in an economic place right now where they can. And hopefully, in order to improve that, I think what would need to happen is that the people around the world, and especially not just around the world, but more so in the people who are more close to those communities, need to start having a different conversation about what do we value. Because if we value these kids having an increased education, then more money will be put there. There's money around the world.
Yeah.
There's money around the world. Economics and profit often dictate where that money is moving. And that's the case. And also another thing I thought of is not every community wants the internet too. There's not communities that necessarily need the internet. I think to say that education via the internet is a better education is still up for debate. It has its benefits, definitely, but it really depends on what you want to learn.
Yes. Inequalities in education still remain high despite COVID-19. More than 100 million girls are out of school, according to the United Nations. Why do you think this is still the case today?
I think the biggest reason for that is cultural heritage. So basically, the mentalities and values that people around the world have inherited from the past.
How do you think they can get the education they deserve, the girls?
Oh man, I think that Yeah, like I said, that starts with changing people's mindset about education. I'm thinking of some examples where communities, the gender roles are very strong. So those start to need to start changing over time. I think that it can also happen from evidence, which is clearly out there, that as women are more educated, economy and infrastructure and all standard of living rises in nations. So the data's out there. I think there needs to be a louder voice about that to those nations and pressure put on those other nations to change that. But it's a slow process. It takes a long time to change the mindset of people. But I do hope that the gender gap, gender inequality in education will be fixed.
Yes. Before the virus, there was progress towards inclusive and equitable education. However, it was too slow. My question is, do you think there will ever be a day when all girls and all boys all around the world get the education they deserve?
To be honest, I think that there will be a day when most boys and girls get the education that they want and deserve. I do think they deserve the access to high quality education, and I hope that that's the case. Like I said earlier, I don't always think education is school, right? You can learn a lot of things by not going to school, and those things can be actually maybe more valuable depending on what you want to do and depending on your situation. The reason I say most and not all is because I think that the world is a very complicated place, and
Yes.
so to say that something can be achieved in perfection is not seeing the world as it is. So I think that we can get closer, and that is what we're doing. I was looking at the UN report, and over even the last 10 years, there has been an increase. So there's still a ways to go, but it's very important to just focus on the increase. So I do think there will be a day where I think we are in a time period where things are improving, and we will see a day where things continue to improve.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed asking you questions today.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's it for my 4th episode. I'll be back in episode 5, which is gender equality. I hope you all learned a lot from this interview and about what this goal is. To get more information about these goals, please visit globalgoals.org. You can definitely advocate for more girls and boys to enter school. This is an important goal right now, and I hope you all can join in with various organizations to tackle this goal. Please let me know how you all are going to raise awareness or tackle this issue in the comment section down below. Thanks for tuning in, and see you all soon.